live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast here at FTN Bets for Wednesday, April 6th. It is a fun time of year. We have the Masters coming up tomorrow. So today, the day you got to get all your bets in case you're not going to get up early enough before those first guys tee off here. And when it comes to golf, I'm going to be honest with you guys. It is not my area of expertise, but it is the area of expertise for the man, myth, and legend I am bringing on here today. Our boy from FTN Bets and FTN Daily, Bryan DeCorte, also known as Axis DFS. What's going on, my dude?
Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, it is a great time of year. And I mean, it's the Masters, and you get every shot. You literally can wake up Thursday, pick whatever golfer you want, and literally watch every shot they make throughout the day, which is honestly great for degenerates because you can bet literally on anyone, on anything, and follow every shot. So,
yeah, I love it when it comes up because I'm basically going to have it on the TV. And it's a good event that you can throw it on mute while you're still working in the middle of your workday. You can just keep an eye on it, what's going on over there while you're doing all these meetings that, you have to do to get through your day and all that good stuff. So it is always a fun time of year. I like on Sunday, we always wind up, I have a big Italian family, so we always wind up going and hanging out at mom and dad's house on Sunday for Sunday pasta. And my dad's a big golf fan, so I know he's going to have it on right there. So we'll come over, we'll eat some food, we'll watch some golf. Always a fun time. That's why I love the Masters here. But we have a lot of stories to talk about, a lot of storylines to talk about here. I know you've been very busy, so I don't want to keep you here too long because you've been doing a ton of content for the Masters coming in here. But I got to start with the question that, it's a question that I know you guys got to be getting tired of answering this week, but it is something that's on everybody's mind out there. We got the news this week that Tiger Woods is going to be playing here. Whether you like Tiger to win or you don't like Tiger to win. Well, actually, we could probably start with that question for you. But more importantly, the thing I want you to kind of give a little bit of background on to our listeners out there is the fact that Tiger's in and the money came rolling in on him here today as well. What has that done to the odds of all the other guys out there? And, do you look at it as, man, now I got to put some money on Tiger? Or do you look at it as more as everybody that I liked earlier in the week when I didn't think he was going to be in there is now a lot better price than I would have got him a couple days ago?
Honestly, I'm not sure how much it's changed things dramatically, just because he is Tiger and they've left him in the market for so long. So, and especially for outright winners, right? So we're talking to win the tournament, he ranges anywhere from 40 to 70 to 1, depending on where you look, which is, a couple percent at best. So it's not like, even if they move him a lot, that other equity isn't going to a ton of places. But honestly, I don't even know if his number, I don't know if I can consider it a true number because he is who he is. He could literally have shown up with and said, I only have one leg and people would bet him. So, it's Tiger Woods. So I think I don't know if it shaped it too much. The real question is what's going to happen after he tees off and we see how he can actually play. And then we'll really start to see how he particularly could be changing the live markets more than what we're seeing leading into the event itself.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point out there. If he comes out and, has 3 or 4 birdies on the front 9, people are going to all of a sudden just start pouring money into him. And then, at that point, you may even have some guys who haven't teed off yet that are, you're just going to see their odds kind of skyrocket. So maybe it might not be a bad idea to think about holding off on some of those bets that you want to put in. And there's one bet that I know that you were on this week that bucks a whole bunch of trends for the Masters. And I wanted you to talk about it. And the man that we're talking about here is Sam Burns.
Yeah, so Sam Burns is making his Masters debut. And if you consume any Masters content, one of the trends, one of the narratives is guys do not win the Masters in their first appearance. Hasn't happened since 1979, Fuzzy Zeller. So with that in mind, though, a lot of guys don't make their Masters debuts, particularly in the same fashion that Sam Burns is. Sam Burns is ranked 11th in the world in the official World Golf ranking. No matter what you think of those rankings, it's pretty solid indicator of at least how a guy has been playing over the last year, year and a half. He has 3 PGA Tour victories before he's made his first appearance at the Masters. So, most golfers, you have to win to get into the Masters within the last calendar year, or you need to be ranked within the top 50 in the world at a couple different points throughout the year. They take like a snapshot. So, guys aren't always coming into this event peaking or playing at their career best. It's not like the PGA Tour where, you can find it, you see it coming like a couple months leading up, they've already played a Masters probably since then if they're pretty good, but not at their best. I want to say Burns, he might even get better, but he's currently playing at some of his career best. So that you're getting a guy who comes to a course who actually think it fits pretty well. He's a solid driver of the golf ball. As long as he keeps it on the planet, he can get a little crazy with it. But overall, he's got the distance to get the advantage here. His iron game is great. He's really tidy around the greens. We know he can putt very well. He won the Valspar most recently. Like, he's coming off of a win. He started the 2022 year with a win as well. So I think that all added up. My number on him was closer to about 34, 35 to 1. He opened at DraftKings at 50 to 1. I can't tell you for a fact if it's still there, unfortunately, because things are just constantly moving right now. Actually, I can pull it up. He is still sitting at 50. He's 37 at a lot of other places. So again, if you hit the FTNBets prop shop, that'll tell you that. I mean, just type in Sam Burns and it gives you his outright at all the books in your state. It's awesome. So if you do that, I mean, you're getting the best number. But yeah, Sam Burns at 50 to 1. I'm not worried at all that he has never played in a Masters before. They all get practice rounds once they qualify. The Masters does a very good job. Augusta National does a very good job of letting them get to the course. Sure, experience always helps. It doesn't matter what the course is. But when you're playing at an elite level like him, I don't think it's going to affect him nearly as much as it might, a different person making their first attempt.
And see, this is why I love having Axis on as a guest, because I don't even have to do my job here. He's already plugging the FTN prop shop for you guys, so I don't have to do it for you. But he does make a good point over there. For those of you who don't know, you can get over to FTN Bets. There's a tab up on the top screen. It says Tools. You click on the Tools tab. Right underneath it, it takes you to the prop shop. And the best thing about the prop shop for the bettors out there is it allows you to line shop all the different books that are available. So you type in the name of whatever golfer you're looking at. It doesn't even have to be golf. The prop shop works for NHL, NBA, all the other sports that we cover as well. You type in that person's name and the prop shop goes and crawls through all of the sports books and finds all the bets with that person in it. The prop bets for guys in basketball or hockey, in something like golf here, we'd be talking about what his outright number is, his top 20 number, his, top 5, top 10, if he has any one-on-one matchups there, all that stuff will be listed. You can just go right down the list. And one thing I like here too, let me get your, opinion on this as well about Burns real quick before we move on. Whenever you have value in the outright market, that value also trickles down to all the other markets that guy is available in, top 40, top 10, top 5, all those. Do you think that some of those might be a little bit of a better bet if you don't want to take that big swing for him to win it outright at, what is he, 50 to 1, I think right now you said?
Yep. Yeah. And so that is true sometimes. So golf's kind of weird. So these markets that only take the one-way action, they can move them a little differently because you can't bet no. You can't, on most books anyway, you can't bet no, he's not going to win. So they start shading these numbers. They see action come in on outrights and they don't normally release the top 20s and 10s at the same time. And then they come out and they might be a little lower if they took a lot of action on the guys outright. But that is something that you should always check because they don't always line up. And sometimes it does correlate and cascade down through it, like you mentioned. And how I simulate the events, sometimes guys with just more upside, they're a little more wild golfers. I actually do sometimes only bet them to win because they're just not consistent enough to make the market numbers for the T20s. But there are other golfers that sometimes the T20 is the bet. Like I won't bet them to win because they just never seem to go low enough to win. But they're consistently cashing, top 15, top 10 checks. So yeah, it's not a bad place to look though.
Nah, interesting. All right. So Axis, before I let you go here, last question I have for you. We have a bunch of degenerates that sit around and listen to this podcast, guys that are looking to get some money down. And with the Masters coming up, it's one of those betting events that even the guys who aren't big PGA or big golf bettors in general are still going to want to have a little bit of action on so that they can enjoy it and watch it over the weekend. Give those guys something that you're looking at here. Let's throw out a bet or two that you think those guys should be putting some money on, something that they can have a fun sweat with.
Yeah, so I'll give you a fun one. It's not an outright, so you don't have to beat all 90 guys in the field, but it's still a nice little plus money chunk. So top Englishman over at FanDuel is plus 380 for Tyrrell Hatton. He's only got to beat, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other Englishmen. There's 8 total. And they'll have all the names that are listed that you can sweat. But at plus 380, I love Tyrrell Hatton this week too. I bet him outright to win. And again, that cascaded into this market. I also was pretty bullish on him in this. He gained strokes in all the 4 major categories on a regular basis. Very good with his irons, very good putter as well, which is nice. Like, you're not sweating your guy over a 5-footer. Like, when he steps up, it's like, all right, I feel pretty good that he's going to make this. So that's always nice when you're watching. Get those nice warm and fuzzies, but at plus 380, he's only got to beat 7 other golfers. He doesn't even necessarily have to win the tournament to be the top Englishman. So, if you go throw some beer money on that, it'll give you hopefully 4 days of sweats. Hopefully he makes the cut. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Hatton across many markets. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, Hatton plus 380 over at FanDuel for top Englishman this week at the Masters.
There you go. Betting on the top Englishman. I think I did this last year as well. So much like the Masters, this is becoming a tradition unlike any other. But I wanted to say thank you for you stopping by. Let everybody know what you got going on over at FTN and also where they could find you on social.
Yes, so if you go to my Twitter at axis_DFS, you can find the betting preview that I do every week for FTN Bets. It's already out and it is free. It has my outright bets for the good stuff and for the matchups and everything else. You'll have to, become a premium member. Promo code AXIS 20% off. You get every bet that I've made this week. And if there's other tours on other weeks, you get all those too for golf. But so that's out there. And then on the DFS side, there'll be some cheat sheets and whatnot that you can also find. But the main hub would be either go to ftnbets.com or head on over to at axis_DFS on Twitter, and all the links are there as well.
All right, so there you go. Now you guys are ready to make some bets on the Masters. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with a little bit of today's NBA action as well here on the FTN Betscast. Welcome back to the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets. We talked a little bit of Masters PGA action in the first series, and now we're going to go on and talk a little bit about tonight's NBA action. Yesterday was the big day for NBA games. I think we had 12 of them last night. Today, we only have 6 games to talk about, but every bit as important with the regular season less than a week from being over at this point. So let's start with the first game here. We got the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Detroit Pistons. Dallas currently sitting in 4th in the West. They are 1 game behind Golden State, 2 games ahead of the Utah Jazz in 5th with 3 games to go. So still a little bit of up and down movement they could have there. Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxi Kleber going to be out for the Dallas Mavericks tonight. They are taking on the Detroit Pistons. Jeremy Grant. They're missing Jeremy Grant, Marvin Bagley, Hamidou Diallo, and Kelly Olynyk are all going to be out for the Detroit Pistons tonight. Detroit eliminated from the playoffs a while ago. They have the 3rd worst record in the league at the moment, so the 3rd most ping pong balls upcoming. This game has the same number on both sides on every single site that I'm looking at here. Everybody has this at 8.5 with Dallas being favored, despite being on the road. And everybody has this at minus 110. So it doesn't matter which books you have access to. Everywhere you want to go, you're going to get minus 8.5 on Dallas, plus 8.5 on the Pistons, and minus 110 as the payout on it. So that's the way to go there. I do like Dallas. I do think they win. I don't know if I really want to lay 8.5 points with them, though. Not really a super high scoring team. So they tend to play games that are a little bit lower scoring. 8.5, a lot of points, especially when you're talking a lower scoring game. The next one, the Brooklyn Nets taking on the New York Knicks. This is an interesting one here. Let's see. You got no Goran Dragic for Brooklyn. You're also going to be without Ben Simmons, obviously. Seth Curry listed as questionable for this game as well. On the Knicks side, no Derrick Rose, no Julius Randle. So arguably 2 of the best, or at least 2 of the 3 best players on the team are going to be out for the Knicks in this one. Brooklyn is currently tied for 8th with Atlanta. They are 1.5 games behind the Cavaliers and 1 game ahead of the Charlotte Hornets with 3 games to go. Interesting thing I wanted to talk about here with the Knicks. When Julius Randle is out of the game, RJ Barrett with Julius Randle in the game averages under 20 points a game, barely. It's like 19.7 or something like that. But when Julius Randle doesn't play, you see that number really bump up with RJ Barrett going up to about 23 points a game. So depending on what the number is here today, if I could get 21 and a half at minus 110 on RJ Barrett, I would play the over. Anything below that, I think is a very good play, a very good value. I wouldn't go 22 and a half with him at, minus 110. It would have to be plus money for me to consider that. Even then, though, I do think that whenever Randall is out, RJ Barrett does become the focal point of this offense. I think this is going to be a faster pace game for them against the Nets. And I think the pace is going to be faster because of the fact that Julius Randle's not in there as well. So I think there are a couple things that we could look at here with RJ Barrett. We'll have to see. So far this morning, they don't have any of the props listed, I guess, because Derrick Rose and Derrick Rose has been out for a while, but Julius Randle being out as well probably throws a kink into that. But at some point today, when they put up the RJ Barrett props, if it's 21 and a half minus 110 or below, that's going to be a prop bet that I'm going to be putting in tonight. As for the spread on this game, it is basically -6 on every site except for BetMGM. So if you want to bet on the net side of it, you can get -6, -110. All the major books, FanDuel, DraftKings, PointsBet, Caesars, Unibet, SugarHouse, Bet Rivers, all have it at that number. If you want to bet on the Knicks side of it, you should go over to BetMGM. It's juiced up a little bit, but they have +6.5 at -115, which is better than taking a +6 at -110. So if you're on the Knicks side tonight, get over to BetMGM. If you're on the Nets side, you can play them at any other book, and it's the same price there. That moves us on to the next game here, which is the Washington Wizards taking on the Atlanta Hawks. Washington is on the tail end of a back-to-back. They played last night. Kyle Kuzma may play tonight. He didn't play last night, but he is listed as questionable. They upgraded him from out yesterday. So that's an interesting thing to see. We'll see if he gets in that game. For Atlanta, John Collins is out. Danilo Gallinari sat the last game and is listed as questionable here. I'm always a little concerned when a guy sits out a game and then is listed as questionable the next game. If a guy played the last game and is listed as questionable, normally I'm okay with that. But, I want to see Gallo out there or hear some more news about him before I really make any decision there. Atlanta is tied for 8th with the Nets, as we just mentioned. Also 1.5 games behind the Cavs, 1 game up on Charlotte here. The number in this game is pretty big. 11 is the number in most of the market. You can find some 10.5s. If you want to bet on the Atlanta side, you can get a 10.5 over at FanDuel. Juice down a little bit too at -106. There are a couple other sites that have this at 10.5, but it's at -110. On the Wizard side, 10.5, 10.5, 10.5, 11. There you go. We can get an 11 on the Wizard side, +11 at Unibet, SugarHouse, and Bet River. So there are a couple places you can get that +11. Everywhere else has it at +10.5, -110, except for FanDuel has it at like -114. So definitely avoid playing the Wizards on FanDuel, but everywhere else I think you can find them. Unibet, SugarHouse, Bet Rivers, best place to get that price. Next game up, this would be an interesting one. The Boston Celtics taking on the Chicago Bulls. Robert Williams is out for the Celtics, and they had Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford all listed as questionable. Although from everything I'm reading this morning, it looks like all 3 of those guys are probably more like probable than questionable. So I do expect all 3 of them to play. Boston is actually in a 3-way tie right now with Milwaukee and Philadelphia. All 3 of those teams are 2.5 games behind the Miami Heat with 3 games to go. So technically, any one of them could go up. The Heat basically just need all of those teams to get 1 loss, or they need 1 win themselves to kind of lock up their number 1 seed. But Philly and Milwaukee, as well as Boston, are all going to be trying to win these games because they're all jostling for who's going to wind up 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the East over these last couple games here. The Chicago Bulls did clinch their playoffs, at least the number 6 seed, so they're not going to have to be in any kind of play-in game. They are still 1 game behind Toronto with 3 games to go, so they could move up into 5th. Currently, they're sitting in 6th. Lonzo Ball remains out. Zach LaVine is questionable. We'll see how that plays out here tonight. Boston on the road is a 6.5 to 7.5 point favorite everywhere you're looking. If you want to bet the Boston Celtics, you can get them -6.5, -110 on PointsBet and Unibet. If you want to bet the Chicago Bulls side of this game, there are actually 7.5s out there in the market at -110 too. FanDuel has +7.5, -110. BetMGM has +7.5, -110. like I said, if I think that Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and Horford are going to play based on the, stuff I've been reading this morning, I think the side of this game you actually want to be on is laying the 6.5 with the Boston Celtics here. Chicago did play yesterday. They're on the tail end of a back-to-back, but they are at home where that tends not to matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as it does when a team is on the road. So I'm not going to give them too big of a knock for that. But again, 6.5 Celtics, probably the way that I would play this one. Next game we could talk about, Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Utah Jazz. Let's see here. Oklahoma City they got a ton of injury information. Starting point guard Josh Giddey is going to be out. Lou Dort is going to be out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be out, and Darius Bazley are going to be out. So that's 4 key rotation players, 4 guys that have started for them at various parts during the year and actually produced a little bit. So obviously not a good spot for OKC. They do catch Utah on the tail end of a back-to-back here if you're looking for some kind of silver lining. Utah is 5th in the West. They are 2 games behind Dallas. They are still half a game up on Denver with 3 games to go. Utah does have motivation to win this game. Utah is also by far the biggest favorite on the board here today. Home team, 16.5 points here. Now, listen, I know Oklahoma City is bad, and I get that Utah's pretty good, but that's a lot of points. You could actually find this at 15.5 still on BetMGM at -110. So if you want to bet on Utah, BetMGM 15.5 -110, best price in the market. As for Oklahoma City, if you want to try to play the OKC Thunder here, +16.5 is pretty much the number you're seeing at almost every book. PointsBet, though, has a juice down at -105. So if you want to play OKC tonight, get over to PointsBet, +16.5, -105, best price out there in the market. And that brings us to our last NBA game for the day, which is the number 1 seed in the West, the Phoenix Suns, fresh off eliminating and knocking the Los Angeles Lakers out of the playoffs last night. They will be taking on the Los Angeles Clippers here in that back-to-back in the Forum out there. Let's see. The Clippers are number 8 overall in the playoffs right now. They are 5.5 games behind Minnesota, so they're not catching Minnesota for 7th. And they are 4 games up on San Antonio and New Orleans, which means neither one of those teams in 9th or 10th are going to be catching them for 8th. Kawhi Leonard is out. Norman Powell's listed as questionable. Little concerned here because the Chargers, the Clippers, when I see LAC, it automatically goes Chargers in my head. When you see the LAC, though, the Los Angeles Clippers today, there's really no reason for them to kill themselves in this game. Win or lose, they're not going to be improving their playoff position. Win or lose, they're not going to be hurting their playoff position. So they really have nothing to play for here. And it's kind of the same thing for the Phoenix Suns. I mean, listen, Phoenix may wind up sitting some of their guys tonight on the tail end of the back-to-back. And one of the reasons why I say that is the Clippers in this game are only are favored by like 0.5 points, 1 point. There's a pick 'em on some sites. They're 1.5 at plus money on another site. So anywhere between a pick 'em to -1.5 on this game for the Clippers. And I would have thought at full strength that the Clippers would have been probably a bigger dog, and probably a dog period, but definitely, would have been more than a point here or a point there. So it kind of leads me to think that Phoenix is going to wind up sitting some of their guys tonight. Now, again, nothing I'm reading or nothing I'm seeing is saying that, but Vegas is pretty good with these things. So when a number looks off there, it's usually because of injury or, players sitting out. And I think that's what's going to wind up happening here tonight. So with that said, I mean, if you do want to play the Phoenix Suns right now, +1.5, -120 on BetMGM is the best number there. You can find some +1s at -110 if you want, but I'd rather take the +1.5 at -120. And then if you're going to bet on the Clippers side of this game, Unibet actually has the Clippers +1 here. That's how much of a spread we have on this game between the two teams. Again, when you're talking about those numbers right around 0 there, it's not really a huge deal one way or the other. But yeah, you could basically get a favorite depending on which site you're looking on here. You could get either one of these two teams favored. If you're looking to bet a money line here today, the money lines for both of these teams are like even money to -115, depending on what site you're looking on here. I don't know if there's an arbitrage situation where we can get them both at plus money. If so, you could always win a couple, pennies on your dollar there. But at the moment, if I had to bet this game, I would probably go on the Los Angeles Clippers side, assuming that we get some news about, one or multiple of the starters for the Phoenix Suns sitting out here today. So there you go. That wraps it up for the NBA action here for today. on the FTN Betscast for Wednesday, April 6th. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.